Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has threatened to resume the war on Gaza unless Israeli captives are released by Saturday. He says the military has been ordered to reinforce its positions in and around the Gaza Strip. On Monday, Hamas announced it was indefinitely delaying the next planned release of captives, accusing Israel of violating the terms of the ceasefire agreement. We will get more reaction on those comments from our correspondent Nour Odeh, who's in the Jordanian capital. But first, let's go to Tareq Azzoum. He's joining us live from Rafah in southern Gaza. And Tareq, growing fears that the ceasefire is about to collapse, with Israel preparing to resume the war, it says. How are people there feeling? What are they telling you?
Well, I had personally many conversations with people on the ground about their reaction regarding the potential collapsing of the ceasefire deal. Many of them have reiterated many times that there is a very high level of skepticism regarding the durability of the deal, and for them, they believe that the ceasefire has been designed to afford them a very remarkable sense of respite following 15 months of relentless bombardment, Elizabeth, and to allow for more humanitarian aid to freely flow into the Strip. But now, with such statements made by the Israeli Prime Minister and with the unwavering American support shown to the Israeli side, the skepticism now is increasing more, where civilians are afraid of the resumption of fighting in Gaza and the reoccupation of Netzarim corridor, alongside with the potential displacement that might take place if Israeli ground forces started their military operations in areas that are densely populated with civilians. It's worth noting that hundreds of thousands of civilians returned back to the north of the Strip, and possibly with the resumption of fighting, they might witness displacements again, and more new areas can be the next target for the Israeli military, especially in the central regions of the Gaza Strip. But certainly there is a general consensus among Palestinians that the renewed of fighting will lead for further destruction and will push Palestinians deeper into a very catastrophic humanitarian situation.
And on the humanitarian situation, Tareq, what's the latest on the amount of aid coming into Gaza? Because officials are saying that it's still not enough.
Well, following Hamas's decision to delay the release of the Israeli captives, there has been a remarkable fluctuating rate of aid deliveries to the Gaza Strip. But today, and since the early hours of this morning, I have observed a very remarkable flow of aid trucks into Gaza. I saw since the early hours of this morning, UN, WFP and the WHO aid trucks have been going back and forth from the crossing to Gaza, carrying different sorts of food items, sanitation products and medical supplies to Gaza's barely functional hospitals and medical clinics. And basically more than 100 humanitarian aid trucks have entered Gaza since the early hours of this morning till now. We have seen that Egyptian trucks also have entered the Gaza Strip, but all of them were carrying the basic humanitarian necessities without carrying more tents or heavy machineries that have been widely demanded and requested by Hamas to help civilians to cope with the situation in the north and to mitigate the aggravating crisis on the ground.
Tareq, thank you very much for that. For now, that is Tareq Azzoum with the latest, joining us live from Rafah in southern Gaza. Nour Odeh is in Amman, Jordan. She's there because the Israeli government and Palestinian Authority have banned Al Jazeera from reporting in Israel and the occupied West Bank. So Nour, Netanyahu has threatened he'll restart the war if the captives aren't released by Saturday. We know how captives' families feel about that. But what's been the reaction from the wider public?
Well, the public in Israel is divided, Elizabeth. The majority supports, actually, the plan proposed by Trump to ethnically cleanse Gaza of its Palestinian population. But there is also wide support for the ceasefire agreement so long as it results in the release of Israeli captives. And the Israeli opposition is capitalizing on that, launching political attacks against Netanyahu and his government, saying that he shouldn't be cowering away from the ceasefire agreement and fearing Bezalel Smotrich, the Minister of Finance, who threatened to take down the government if it moves to phase 2 of the agreement. In the meantime, the Israeli media is also reflecting that division. Haaretz leading with the headline that Netanyahu is endangering the ceasefire, while more mainstream and right-of-center newspapers like Ma'arif and Yedioth Ahronot say that Netanyahu has issued an ultimatum to Hamas that if it does not release the captives by Saturday, war would resume because already those in reserve have been recalled.
And Nour, meanwhile, where you are, how are people in Jordan feeling about how King Abdullah's meeting with Donald Trump went and what was said?
Look, in Jordan here, there is wide public support for the king's position, which he shared on X following the meeting with Donald Trump, which is to reject any displacement of Palestinians, to reject the idea that Jordan can give away its land or can serve as an alternative homeland for the Palestinians. But there is a very somber understanding of the high risks involved and the fact that upsetting Donald Trump or going immediately into confrontation mode with the man could have grave consequences for Jordan. Jordan being right in the middle of all those hot spots in the region. You have Syria on its border. You have Israel and the occupied West Bank to its eastern border. You have Yemen nearby and Iraq as well. And so this is a country that has struggled to maintain some semblance of stability for decades. That's the story of Jordan since its independence. And people here understand that the risks are going to be very high and they're going to require a unified Arab position to face off that danger coming from Washington as they see it.
Nour, thank you very much for that. For now, that is Nour Odeh joining us live from Amman.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.